Good evening, Kenton community. My name is Sabatino Samato. I'm your superintendent, and this is your weekly Connection update. Some topics in the Connection tonight include a small COVID update, also some school highlights. We'll then go into our recognitions for the evening, and we'll round and end off with our celebrating Black History Month. So let's get going. First, COVID updates. We know that masking requirements, of course, are a very hot topic right now. Unfortunately, we have not heard anything more as a school district at this time. We know what our public knows, what was announced last week, that Governor Hochul will revisit this during the first week in March when we come back from break and make a further recommendation. I just want to be clear. At the time that masking becomes optional in New York State and we're given that autonomy as a school district, then we will make masking optional in Kenton. I want to put that out there so our public is prepared. As rates continue to come down, when we hear from the experts that masking can be optional, we will follow suit in Kenton. I do want to reiterate some things that we did follow through with this week. We sent home test kits with all of our students. We actually had some extra test kits, so we sent home multiple test kits with each child. And those test kits are to be used for testing students right at the end of the break. Right at the end of the midwinter recess, utilize those tests to make sure that students are coming to school COVID-free. And just to reiterate, in the event that you ever had a positive test, we still follow that Erie County guidance, that New York State Department of Health guidance, that a positive result must be reported to the Erie County Department of Health via the link, and the person who tests positive has to isolate for 5 days. So that has not changed, regardless of vaccination status. So let's just make sure that we refresh what those recommendations and requirements are. Now, another thing that we can expect after break with the COVID update is our daily attestation. We've had that continuing. We've had it as a reminder for families. Folks, we're going to stop with the daily attestation. It is not a requirement any longer. It hasn't been a requirement for quite some time. Kenton has continued it along the way, but the daily attestation will no longer be sent via email after the midwinter recess. I feel that parents, we all know as a community, we know if your child has any one of those things, they have a fever, if they're under quarantine or isolation, if they have symptoms, they should not be coming to school. And that stays true. That will stay true forever in our educational world. But from now on, we will not be receiving that daily attestation that comes home for you to fill out. And thank you to all those families that have continued to do that throughout this process. And our next section is our school highlights. And this week we have some great highlights from Kenmore East. We have a highlight for all schools. We have Franklin L in there. We have Big Picture. We have Hoover Middle School. So please check that out in writing, as there's great things going on. There are always great things going on in our schools, and this is just a small sampling from this week. Now to our recognitions. Our first recognition this week are bus drivers and transportation staff. This week we recognize all Kenton School District bus drivers and transportation staff who are responsible for thousands of students traveling to and from school safely each day. They also provide transportation for field trips, after-school activities, athletics, and other programs. Bus drivers play a vital role that is often overlooked. They transport students to and from our own schools, as well as dozens of other schools throughout Western New York, including charter and private schools and special education locations. Being a bus driver is absolutely a challenging job. It requires constant concentration on their route while also maintaining order and discipline on the bus at all times, because safety is first. It's paramount. For students who ride the bus, drivers are the first and last district staff they interact with on a daily basis. Our transportation staff realize that they are often viewed as the face of the district due to their consistent daily interaction with our constituents. School districts throughout the country celebrate Bus Driver Appreciation Day on February 22nd. Since this coincides with our midwinter recess, this important day can be recognized the following week. I'm encouraging all families to show your appreciation for your child's bus driver. It is also important to remember that all transportation staff that work behind the scenes, such as maintenance mechanics, dispatchers, transportation office staff, bus aides, the list goes on and on with all the people, all the folks that help out in transportation. Without them, our students wouldn't be in school each and every day. So thank you very much to all of our drivers and all of our staff. And our next recognition for the evening is Mr. Michael Burke. Kenmore East High School was proud to award former Kenton student Michael Burke, a distinguished veteran of Vietnam War, with his high school diploma. Mr. Burke was a Kenton student in the 1950s and 1960s, attending the former Brighton Elementary, Franklin Middle, then Franklin Junior High School, and then Kenmore East High School. He did not complete his high school education and enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1969 at the age of 18. He served from 1969 to 1973 at the height of the Vietnam War. Our kiddos can't even imagine something like that today, and this gentleman actually had to leave high school, enlist in the war, and go off to Vietnam. During his service, Mr. Burke earned the National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Campaign Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, Sharpshooter Rank Marksmanship badges for the M14 and M16, and 2 overseas service bars. At the time he left the military in 1973, he was stationed out of New Jersey and serving with the 41st Transportation Company. With the help of his friend and fellow veteran John McCoon, working in conjunction with Kenmore East, Mr. Burke was able to earn his diploma through Operation Recognition. This is a New York State program that allows school districts to award a high school diploma to those who left school early and served in the U.S. Armed Forces in recognition of their devotion and sacrifice. And Mr. Burke, thank you for your service to Kenton. Thank you for your service to our country. You are absolutely a symbol of the best that Kenton has to offer. And finally, we finish off this week with celebrating Black History Month. And this week, our focus for Black History Month is the Reverend Jesse Edward Nash Sr., one of the most important figures in Western New York through the first half of the 20th century. Reverend Nash was born in 1868, the son of former slaves who worked as farmers. He left home at the age of 13 and worked various jobs before entering Wayland Cemetery, now Virginia Union University, at the age of 18. He had little formal education, but he quickly caught up, enrolled, and received a Bachelor of Divinity degree in 1892. He developed a reputation as a very promising clergyman and had offers from numerous churches to be their pastor, including the Michigan Street Baptist Church in Buffalo. He chose Michigan Street Baptist Church in large part because it had been an extremely important location on the Underground Railroad. Reverend Nash was only 24 years old when he arrived in Buffalo in 1892, and he served as pastor of the church for more than 6 decades. He also became one of the most influential spiritual leaders and community activists in the city. He believed the church should play a key role in social justice movement and advocating for the needs of the less fortunate. Under his leadership, that's exactly what the church became. The Michigan Street Baptist Church quickly developed into a central location for the civil rights movement in Buffalo, and Reverend Nash was instrumental in establishing the NAACP, an urban league in Buffalo. Reverend Nash lived in a small home behind the church, which was a common meeting place for civil rights organizers. Visitors included many prominent speakers, such as Booker T. Washington. The street on which both are located was renamed Nash Street in his honor, and the house has been maintained as the Nash House Museum, which is dedicated to preserving Reverend Nash's legacy. Now both locations are part of the Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor. According to the Nash House Museum, Reverend Nash was a leader of the church and an influential member of his community. He used his power and personality to develop relationships with political and business leaders, both black and white, to help his dreams of a more unified Buffalo come true. And Reverend Nash is absolutely a large member of our Buffalo history. And that's where we'll end today. Reverend Nash's history is our history. Our Buffalo strong history, our Kenton strong history. It's absolutely why we have that Kenton pride. Now, I hope everyone has a very restful break. Remember, those tests that we sent home with students, use them at the end of the break. And let's always make sure that we are being safe over our break. Folks, just a reminder, there will not be a connection next week during the break, and make sure you enjoy time with your friends and family.